TPR.
Hi everyone, welcome to episode 111 of the TPR pod. Today's episode is with Azka Shahid. Azka is a fashion editorial stylist. She works primarily with ZaraShahJehan, the big, well, not big, but quite big fashion brand in Pakistan. We talked about a lot of things. This was a conversation I've been looking to have with somebody for a while about fashion in Pakistan. This is primarily through Aska's own eyes and experience. Working with Zara Shah Jahan, we talked a lot about things like nostalgia, using nostalgia as inspiration for current fashion design and campaigns and styling, and also some of the criticisms that receives. Is that valid? Do people understand? Do they not get it? Things like we had to bring in our social media angle. How big of an influence is Instagram in the fashion world? How many fashion decisions are made with Instagram in mind? Does Instagram cycle back and affect the world of fashion too? We talked about being original, finding the art in fashion design, styling, and how it shouldn't just be about consumerism, and shouldn't just be about the commodification of just things and just buying things. Lots of stuff in this episode, and I think it was a great chat. The internet, yeah, important notice, the internet was difficult, so you're going to see a bit more cuts in the video. If you're on audio, sometimes things might not be as perfectly audible as they should be. I tried to do the best I could given the circumstances. I think we've salvaged pretty much all the important bits. So yeah, Aska Shahid. But fair. Now let's see here. I have a few questions. I sent you an enormous agenda, like I always do, and then I told you, like I tell everyone, "Okay, bro, it's not a script, bro. मतलब ये तो बस points हैं. Don't read too much in."
That
Um,
was me. So you will have to rein me in a little bit, and you know.
yeah. Also, because I am very ignorant about your field of work generally, I thought मैं लिख लेता हूँ, because like casual बातचीत तो मुझसे शायद now, and I'll be like, "और bro, क्या हो रहा है?"
Good question. Like, it was all well thought out. Like I believe mostly people just ask me really basic things like, "Where does your inspiration come from?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Or can't speak for an hour about this. Sure, it comes from somewhere, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Have
for
you
it.
have you done podcasts before?
I have not done podcasts before. I've done like classes and stuff, and but I'm very averse to speaking on camera or being on camera.
Right.
Strangely, and that's why I'm a stylist because I'm very comfortably behind the scenes.
Right.
But I'm accepting podcasts and like requests. Conversations. We're just at home, so
Most of our
most of the
guests
time.
are like, "Huh, bro. I mean, यही जिंदगी
Not,
है. We'll accept
not
it." That's as high as the enthusiasm's ever been.
yeah.
But what is your job first, so that people understand?
So I am a stylist. More specifically, I am an editorial stylist, mostly, which means that I don't do very large commercial projects. I don't do TVCs.
Okay.
I don't do big retail brands either necessarily. Although ZaraShahJehan now is becoming a bigger retail brand, but when I started working with them, they were very much a small
Yeah.
operation. My job, so I work with Umar Nadeem mostly. He's this photographer. I don't know if you've seen his work. We mostly work together. We're a team. We're also best friends, so it's very nice. And the both of us basically handle a campaign start to finish. We think of the art direction. We think of the look. Most of the time, sometimes we also end up doing like production, which means sourcing everything.
That's
Getting teams lined up, selecting models, like a lot of things. Traditionally speaking, of course, the stylists internationally, stylists ka kaam ye hota hai ki they pull outfits, they put outfits together, all of that. Pakistan, mein, of course, you end up doing a lot more than that just because that's how Lahore, at least that's how Lahore works, right? Like
Right.
doing so many different things.
Is your work mostly in
Uh,
Lahore?
yes, I mostly work with ZaraShahJehan, yeah, and a few small brands here or there, but mostly, I'm known as the ZSJ stylist, I guess.
Yes, yes. That's also how well, apart from our mutual friend, Sana, uh, but that's also, yeah, my reference to you is get Zara Shahjahan. I'm seeing a lot of Zara Shahjahan. Aska works with her, so then we can combine these two together.
Yeah, it's been many,
Which is,
many years. I've done like a few things here or there. I've done some Elan, I've done some Generation, but mostly
what's,
that
you
is.
said you're an editorial stylist and not, what's an editorial stylist?
An
Ignorant
editorial
question
style,
for
I
Delhi.
think that most of it, we do more looks, but most of the time it's like maybe 5 to 8 looks. So a
Okay.
commercial, you're handling a lot more looks, right? Like so, but I do launch shoots now, which is massive. So you're doing like 20 looks in three
Hmm.
days.
Hmm.
Editorial is smaller, the scale is smaller. It's
Okay.
more. Um, I like to believe it's a little more well thought out than bigger mammoth
Right.
campaigns. You
Right.
have the time to concentrate on
Right.
very
Right.
specific small things.
Right.
So that's what I mean by that, and it's just what I can handle. There's no shade on commercial work.
Right.
It's just not. I
No, no,
don't
we're
have the
we're
capacity.
fully shade throwing shade. Bar bar ke.
No
Um,
shade. I just everybody's hustle. It's fine. I can't.
but
I can't.
how does one become a stylist, or how did you become a stylist?
Great question. I didn't become a stylist till I think now it's been 2017 is when I became a stylist. But I'm a literature major otherwise. I worked in the arts and research and writing mostly before this.
Because
How?
when I was looking up like Aska Shahid, what has she done? There was like some, I don't remember exactly, but there was like some film, literature, drama related tags that came up.
Yeah, I've taught. I worked with the Lahore Biennale Foundation. I worked with like some publications like Desi Writers Lounge, and that was
Hmm.
primarily what I was doing. Um, So how I became a stylist, like just honestly by chance, like I did not put a lot of thought into it at all. Umar was a photographer. He went into fashion photography. He was working in-house at Zara Shah Jahan. One day he was like, "Do you want to maybe come and uh, style a shoot?" And I was like, "I don't know what the fuck that entails, but let's do it."
Right.
And that's like I've always loved clothes. Like I love dressing. I love it. It's always been an obsession,
Hmm.
but I never thought that I could monetize it. It turns out I can, and that's amazing for me, I guess.
Right.
It's good.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so that's how I became a stylist. I did not go to school for it. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, there's barely fashion school, right? So
Right.
styling not really a priority when they're teaching.
Okay.
Unfortunately, because I do think it would have come in handy if I could have, assisted a bigger stylist or
Hmm.
any of those, learning processes. But no, I
Do you
was
think
just
this is the usual way people become stylists in Pakistan? Like with the lack of formal education opportunities, and you just
yeah,
like people
definitely.
find their way
Any of
into
the
it?
stylists I know, they're in it because they truly enjoy the work. Either
Acha.
because my ex, a big stylist. She originally also was a fashion writer, and then
Hmm.
she started styling. So a lot of us do come into it through,
Right.
like side,
Say,
semi
say,
cycle.
say, 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 say. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like I said in the wall of text questions,
Yeah.
Zara Shahjahan was something that I was going to use as like a reference to
Mhm.
understand the work. There were two things. Pehli baat to ye ki for a while I'd been looking, because we're very like internet heavy, so extremely online type people, and
Yeah.
I was looking at like the Instagram fashion sort of scene, in terms of like independent Instagram people who become Instagram models,
Yeah.
just regularly posting. So there was that angle, and then there was Zara Shahjahan. We like her work, which means we like your work, ittifaqan. And I there was some recent discussion, because over I think the past, maybe उससे पहले भी, but पिछले 6 महीने में ज़ारा शाहजहां का Instagram internet presence has like blown up.
Yeah,
in terms
because
of
they're moving towards being a
right.
bigger retail brand. So yeah,
Huh.
I think that's
So I was wondering what, and with that, there has been more scrutiny of
of
the
course,
whole, the
yeah.
brand and the look and the concept, etc. So, what would be the question here? Why did that change?
Why
Was
did
there,
why did that change? Like, why did the scrutiny? Like, why did it
no, no, no.
increase?
You
Like,
said that they're looking to be a bigger brand now.
why did they?
Was there
It's
like a
just
change in outlook at the company?
I think they have the opportunity for growth and they're taking it. They are still holding true to
Hmm.
I feel personally
Hmm.
that their original aesthetic, which is nostalgic, which is culture, which is
Yeah.
Lahore culture. You guys, they do have a very specific homegrown
Okay. Okay.
aesthetic, right? And they're sticking true to that and slowly transitioning also into a bigger brand because yes, there's still demand for it. And
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
sure, they're a business. They want to.
Speaking of, हाँ, फिर ये nostalgia वाली बात is good now. Um, is the thing, is it supposed to be like a 30-year fashion cycle where every 30 years like sort of looks
And now it's becoming more compressed because of course, social media and just how exposed we are, right? So trends
hmm,
are accelerated by how exposed you are. That's
right,
just how it works.
right.
So traditionally, as 30-year cycle, 20, 30-year cycle, अब I feel like it's becoming more and more compressed. Where now, I genuinely believe we're in a time where like early 2000s, especially Y2K,
Oh no.
a very yes, oh no, but it's Gen Z's
Yeah,
here, and I have full respect to Gen Z. I think they're cool as hell. Good for them. I personally can't. I can't pull that off, but
yeah,
great.
yeah.
I couldn't pull it off back in 2000.
I
So
don't think anybody pulled it off. We just accepted, "Ki, हाँ, bro, this is a thing, I guess." But
because now I see some of the things that younger people are wearing, and I was like, oh my god, I was in this exact same thing, and I thought I was the shit, but no, I really wasn't.
yeah,
Khair,
yeah.
but I do think Abhi, we are going through a time where many different eras are in play. Like the
Hmm,
80s are still around, they haven't fully left, but we're transitioning into a very specific 90s style, not
yeah,
like the
yeah.
prolific 90s style, but like, the sleek, clean, kind of laid back 90s. Um, and then there's Y2K, which is fucking insane, and that's it. People are wearing whatever the fuck they want to. So there's like multiple things
Were you
happening, right?
working with some sort of like is tarah ki campaign or is tarah ki product line where there's like a specific reference point being used as inspiration? Do you have like any resources that you can refer to when you're working, like, because if you're doing new stuff, then there's no reference base, right? It's just we're just doing something new and we'll figure it out as we go along, that sort of. But when there is, you said there's a very
Yeah,
specific Lahore 90s look that is being
yeah,
used as inspiration. How
yeah.
do you build, like, how do you work with that sort of framework?
So number one, if we are speaking about ZSJ specifically,
Sure.
of course, Zara herself is somebody who's heavily involved in all the things. With a lot of brands, you don't have a creative director who's heavily involved. She is
Acha.
somebody who will be on set in all the meetings. The initial brief always will come from her. It will. So she is somebody who personally loves the horror, like 80s, 90s horror,
Hmm.
and dress like, right? So number one, her personal style, which is how it should be. The creative director should personally be invested in the style they're selling, right? Uske baad, the team that they've built a team that is also naturally very interested. I do enjoy 90s Lahore a lot. I enjoy 87, all of it. I enjoy it very much. Reference, हाँ, absolutely, बहुत heavily हमारा काम is based on references. We build it through our own personal, me personally, I build it through my own family archive. I look
Acha.
at like
Right.
all the photos that I have. मेरी सारी अम्मा की तस्वीरें, मासियों की तस्वीरें,
Hmm.
a lot of that. Umar goes back into his family archives. We look at a lot of what women are wearing, how they're
Huh.
styled,
Hmm.
all of those things. From the fucking internet like mad. I was saying I have like 9,000 reference photos in my phone right now. That's not my laptop, not anything else, just my
Right.
phone.
Right.
Because we're constantly It is a very reference heavy for us, at least. The work that we do is
So
very reference heavy.
when
We're
you're
constantly
looking
looking.
when you're looking for things outside of like your own personal collections, what would
Yeah.
be like a resource point for you to do? You just type like 90s Lahore fashion or Google me and something comes up?
No,
There has to be something more
it is. So I personally really enjoy, like, I really enjoy old publications like Herald. I look at a lot of
right.
Herald. I follow a couple of people on Instagram who do create archives, which is really a great resource for me.
Hmm.
Top Bastard, I don't know if you follow
Yeah,
her.
yeah, yeah.
Sanam Meher,
Yeah,
she
yeah.
wrote the she wrote the Kandil Baloch book.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she has an amazing archive that I look at her archive constantly, and she
Mm.
uploads a lot of it. So thanks to her. So yeah, we don't just type 90s fashion.
That's how I would do
It
it.
is like we follow certain people. But mostly it does come from, to be very honest, a lot of my inspiration does come from my mom. Like, I
Okay.
think it's such a cheesy thing, but I think my mom is like my biggest source of, yeah.
My reference for this was I recently spoke to Natasha Nurani, who does a lot of music research,
Okay.
and usme
Huh.
she was mentioning that it's hard to come across, like archives or research, and it's not like
Huh.
widely available. So, wo, I was wondering
Yeah,
if
Uska Kaam is like, her work is definitely more difficult, I'd say.
yeah, so
Uska
fashion
uske
is better
archive building
documented.
is very, हाँ, उसके लिए archive building is more physical work. Like, she actually has to go and find tapes and then
Yeah.
digitize them and stuff, right? हम भी थोड़ा बहुत ठीक है करते हैं. हम बहुत ज्यादा पुरानी old book shops में भी बहुत time spend करते हैं. We do
Hmm.
look for physical
Hmm.
magazines and references, but fashion is better documented. It's just a more prolific,
Right, 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 right.
form of media, I
and
think.
and then I
So
think the look that you said that you were looking at the family pictures and stuff, that really translates into the shoots as well, because the setup of the shoots is not like super just about on a cliche magazine glamorized like massive blowout flash or yeah whoa everything. It seems very I guess intimate would be a word for it. Is that directly because of the influences that you're drawing from?
that it is an extreme. We do, that is one of our keywords. We try to make it very intimate. We do try to evoke a sense of what you would be doing at home,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
with your closest family
Yeah.
members, your friends. So all of our concepts are very heavily, yes, tied around intimacy. Is, yeah, a big goal for us when we're shooting.
So uska, but then there's the sort of then the flip side to this is people don't understand that this is like a stylistic choice. Perhaps by people I mean
Yeah.
the worst categories of the internet, वो कहते हैं ब्रो ये तो मतलब ऐसे कपड़े तो मेरी अम्मी पहनती थी और ये तो घर में बैठ के कोई तस्वीर ले ले.
Which is
Do you
such a,
think?
I guess it's true.
Yeah, yeah,
There's no lie.
but
True, सच तो बोल रहे हैं, but
yeah,
obviously, like you said, they perhaps don't understand that that is very intentional. That is what we're going for, and it is what it is, I guess. I never get into these arguments with people at
right,
all.
right.
Because नहीं पसंद आया तो नहीं पसंद आया. ठीक है,
But I guess
fine.
the point of the shoot and the styling and everything is sort of to work as like a marketing vehicle for the brand. Do you think
Yes.
this
At the end
issue,
of the day,
huh? So do you think your customers have these sort of hangups? Yeah, they get it.
the customer is, look, they're very temperamental,
Right.
right? Um, for there are at least like 4 different categories in the brand, within the brand itself. Umar and I mostly work with Pret, which is
Right.
ready to wear.
Yeah.
We do some lawn shoots, but you have to do lawn. It's just something that it's part of every big brand now.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak about lawn. I don't enjoy it.
Okay.
It's not something I love.
Sure.
But Pret has a very specific client, like a very specific client in mind. It's not the same client as lawn. It's not the same client as customer. Sorry, client can get you
Mm.
customer
Mm.
as bridal or even luxury Pret. Any of those. So I do think, yes, that the Pret customer gets it. There are
Right.
people who want to look like a ZSJ girl. They do. And they do, like, they style themselves how we style shoots. It's great to see people do that. It's personally very, like, it's validation. Ke chalo, people are getting it and people
Yeah.
do want to look a certain way. And fashion, I'm sorry, fashion is aspirational at the end of the day. We're not trying to, sure, we're trying to achieve intimacy with our shoots, but it's not realism. That's an unrealistic expectation. And I think a lot of people's criticism is that they think that they don't, it doesn't, like, it doesn't feel act like honest to them, which is fine. Maybe it's not honest to your life. This is
Yeah.
not how you live, but then
Yeah.
you are not the customer. You're not the intended customer. This is not your style. Move on. Find something that is,
नहीं नहीं नहीं,
right?
move
And
on
like,
नहीं होता.
move on नहीं होता है ना, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, everybody, thanks to the internet, thanks particularly to Twitter, everybody must have an opinion. You
Yeah.
must have an opinion. You must be very, very upset about it, which
Yeah.
is, again, that's just the internet. If you have seen, like, my online presence, it's next to nothing. I have like a couple of thousand followers on Insta. I mostly share memes. I do engage with a lot of people who have questions in real life. Like, for instance, we're having a poll. You have questions. I have ample space to actually speak.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
very pro talking about my work, but just not on the internet. I'm not gonna get into, like, and people saying things like the Joda is so plain. It is so plain. Okay, then it's plain. That's the intended design. What should we do? It's
Yeah.
plain.
Yeah.
Cool. Some criticisms are valid and I enjoy them. Like, some of the memes that people make about our campaigns,
Yeah.
I enjoy them thoroughly. I have a really good laugh. I share them. I'm
Right.
like, this is pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, people saying ये तो मेरी अम्मा और मेरी मासी और मेरी नानी पहनती थी. Well, yeah, that's the idea. That's the brand. So,
Do you think in
sure.
2017, when you said you started, um, was Instagram and social media pay brand presence as big a deal back then as well as it is now?
So Insta was just becoming a really big deal. Like, when I started, we had just they I wasn't a V in the fashion industry back then, but they had just started to primarily start focusing on Insta as the
Right.
major
Right.
marketing tool, right? So we were in that sort of transitional space where we were still thinking about, like, billboards and print and ads, like physical
Yeah.
ads,
Yeah. Yeah.
but also everything we were shooting, the grid was really coming into play. Like, we'd have to think how it'll play out,
Yeah. Yeah.
To now, 5 years later, everything's about Insta. You know, Insta is the marketplace.
Is it so? Is it like it's not that Instagram has also become a place? It has like marketing focus actually moved away from traditional media towards Instagram?
Yeah, I would say that for sure, because the reach that something like Insta has is, you can't, like, in print, you can't achieve that in print, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, now all Insta, like, there there's ZaraShahJehan has a new brand called Jehan, which I'm the styling director for, and we're primarily just focusing on Insta. Our presence is mostly just Instagram.
Yeah. Oh, you work with John.
So
That's not that's more like homeware, furniture, इस तरह की चीजें हैं ना?
yeah, homeware, furniture, and, like, there are clothes, but they're more, like, it's a very different aesthetic from the ZSJ now. Yeah, but it's really new, baby. So we're trying to build it into hopefully something that's also more like, just more environmentally conscious a little bit. So
Yeah.
everything's produced really slow, small batches, mostly hand, like, all hand done. So yeah, that's the focus for Jehan.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you think I was interested
Um,
in asking about those aspects also, ye jo, like
yeah.
is that taking any wider acceptance across the industry that you see being more environmentally conscious? Is this something people also want, or is it just something कि किसी designer ने अगर सोच लिया तो हो गया, वरना it's
Yeah.
not really a trend in Pakistan?
In Pakistan, I would say that very few brands are genuinely interested in engaging with that question.
Yeah.
Internationally, also, let's be honest, yes, I know a lot of people, a lot of brands now publish like their impact reports and all of that, but actual action bahut kam
Yeah.
hai.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately because fashion in international globally is a very extremely unregulated industry. We know that it is. Pakistan mein to bhul jao. There is no
Mm.
regulation.
Right.
There isn't. That's it. So there's no compulsion for brands to necessarily engage with that. I genuinely don't think we're in a place where a lot of the customers care. They don't. There's a very small group that cares very, very passionately. But that small group is not going to ultimately affect the choices that brands make. It's very unfortunate. I'm not at
Right.
all like saying that this is okay, but I'm saying this is the unfortunate reality of
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
in Pakistan. But then there are certain people like I care. I deeply care about fashion just changing radically. Like I think the entire industry needs to be taken apart, rebuilt, like any other industry, let's be honest. Everything needs to be rebuilt and regulated heavily, like heavily, very strictly regulated.
With regards
But
to
in
what
the
sort of
current
things?
system, प्लीज वर्कर कंडीशंस क्या है फैक्ट्रियों में, किस स्केल पे प्रोडक्शन होती है, किस तरह वेस्ट डिस्पोजल, एनी ऑफ दीज थिंग्स. अब मोस्टली चीजें जो लाहौर के ब्रांड्स बना रहे हैं, the industrial area is right there. It's right behind Model Town, right? So you can actually go and see the industrial area, and you can see कि क्या हालत क्या है वहाँ पे, right?
Hmm.
So just simple things, simple regulations. Not, but ये चीजें कहने में simple होती हैं, obviously करने में,
Yeah.
like I said, everything will have to be taken apart and then rebuilt.
Do you think there's any expectation or hope कि ये होगा?
Is there any hope? मतलब, there's always hope that capitalism will die a swift death at some point. Of course,
Right.
there's always the hope. My political feelings are only,
Yeah.
this is why it's even more strange that I work in fashion, but
Yeah.
I do. So there's always hope. Of course, there's hope. And I was just going to say, in the meantime, there are a few people in the industry like me, like Umar, like Iman, for instance. There's a few of us who do have these conversations constantly. We do have these conversations with our clients. We have it with other creatives. We have it with each other. ठीक है, बात करना is not enough. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
not. लेकिन at the end of the day, हम means of production नहीं control करते. ना हम उनसे कोई massively benefit करते हैं. हम भी, we are also workers. That's it. But if I think if you speak to your clients enough, if you speak to designers enough, कुछ थोड़ा बहुत फर्क होएगा, क्योंकि now, like
It,
I was speaking about Jehan before earlier. Jehan is, I believe, ZSJ trying to move in a different direction.
yeah.
Create something that's a little more kind to
Yeah.
the environment.
Also, perhaps
So
if it's included in like you know marketing material or whatever, it can sort of become this aspirational attribute for people to consciously, because like at the end of the day, if you want people to spend their money in more responsible areas, there has to be some sort of innate um attraction there.
absolutely, absolutely, for sure. And that's something so Umar and I work on Jehan also. When we're shooting for Jehan or when we're thinking of campaigns for Jehan, we're thinking very differently.
Hmm.
We are trying to create like images that not in an obvious in your face way, say, please recycle, please. No, it's not like that. But we are trying to create images that maybe encourage people to buy less,
Hmm.
in some way. Or just, yeah, simplify their consumer habits, buy less, be more responsible, be more conscious of where things are coming from. We're trying to be very transparent in how honest we are about how something is made. So honestly, you have to show people that something can be done better for them
Right.
to start asking industry wide for things to be done better.
Hmm.
That's what I personally believe.
Yeah. So then coming back to wo Instagram wali baat, now you said that the fashion industry is now very focused on Instagram. Abhi thode din pehle we had an episode with somebody who is looking at, Instagram analytics and how advertisers are going to use
Yeah.
Instagram way more in a way more granular fashion. So wo bhi ye keh raha tha ki the discussion there was just about how people make money how influencers make money in Pakistan, and the vast majority was Instagram. Like YouTube shooting wala koi scene hi nahi tha. um
हाँ,
there have been people then who, just like you, were interested in fashion, and perhaps you didn't have like a formal education in it, but that interest
yeah,
turned into a job. So
yeah.
there's a version of this happening on Instagram as well, where people are into fashion, and then Instagram pe post karke, profile bana ke they turn into like these fashion influencer sort of things.
Yeah.
Is there, does that fall into your equation when you're looking at people to perhaps hire as models, when other designers might be looking at trends? How big of a factor is like social
Hmm.
media influence in like the real world situation?
हमारे काम पे क्या फर्क पड़ता है basically? Like how are we affected? Or
Yeah,
do you mean how people how
like,
the
is
general
that
public is
when
affected?
you're thinking of campaigns, when you or others perhaps are thinking of campaigns, do they take those trends, those famous people into consideration? Is that a before after thing?
So again, I can only speak for the work that I do.
Sure.
Not really. We don't really take influencer trends into go because again, the work is very grounded in a certain aesthetic. It just is. But of course, trendier brands, yes, I think like for instance, something like say Nine Lines or even Breakout Outfitters, all of
Hmm.
these, they
Hmm.
are yeah, they're watching international influencers. In fact, they're seeing what those people are wearing and then they're reproducing it.
Right.
So for certain brands and for certain kind of fashion segment, I do think it's extremely relevant. हमारे लिए influencers are relevant once the lines are out.
Hmm.
Once we're doing PR, then yeah, we collaborate with certain influencers for sure.
Right.
It's a small category. It's not a very big category. When it comes to hiring people,
Yeah.
not really. Like personally, I don't work with influencers. As models, we don't.
Yeah.
But then again, मैं अपने काम की बात कर रही हूँ. Pret is
Uh-huh.
a small. For things like bridals, sure. I think yes, lawn, yes, a lot of influencers, celebrities.
Hmm.
It's the easy to sell things, so yeah, they are used as
Hmm.
models. But a lot of models have become influencers
Themselves. Yeah.
also. So
Yeah.
you overlap with them. So of course, yeah, अगर ये हम जब सोच रहे होते हैं कि models कौन सी cast करनी है, absolutely, sometimes yes, they're following and what kind of following they have. More importantly,
Yeah.
is it a relevant? Yeah, that does play into casting decisions for sure. Yeah.
Hmm. हाँ, मैं यही पूछना चाह रहा था, because clearly when you're saying that a lot of the work being done is done with sort of the Instagram output in mind, like you said,
Yeah.
the grid really matters. तो वही, like, is Instagram feeding back into your decision making in terms of
Yeah.
these individuals as well?
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, it does. Yeah, I really wish it wasn't that way because number one, it's taken the joy out of Instagram completely. It is pretty much a marketplace.
Yeah.
That's it. But yeah, it is, and also it's print is dying. Print in fashion, at least, is dying because Instagram has taken over everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure, it does.
I'm interested in the unfortunately aspect. What what would how would you prefer things to have played out? Like, I mean, not that we can change the world, but what balance would you have
Yeah.
preferred?
क्या मेरी preference का क्या फर्क पड़ता है? But I think as somebody who does enjoy print, I would have liked for it to survive longer or at least survive in some sort of sustainable way.
Right.
By here, at least internationally, I think it does still. Designers do make, like, there are fashion books and all of those things. They're just a part of, I guess, the culture of fashion.
Yeah.
Hamara, unfortunately, we don't really, number one, people don't really think of fashion image making as an art. Let's be honest,
Okay.
people don't. They think of it as, and it is a marketing tool. Absolutely, it is. But it isn't purely that,
Yeah.
right? It isn't. But लोग यहाँ उनके दिमाग में ad, it's an ad. That's it. Ad बन रही है. So I don't think कि number one, I don't think लोग इतना interest लेते हैं image making में. जितना like मेरा एक मसला with people saying things like, oh, this is so simple, but this is so कि आप बस देख रहे हो कि ये ad है और ये effective थी कि नहीं, but you're not really thinking about the creatives
Yeah,
behind
yeah.
this. And that we might be, for us, it is a form of artistic expression. These things are all extremely cheesy to say
No,
and
no,
to
but
hear,
valid.
but it's so I think I would just prefer like maybe Pakistan mein to be, for there to be slightly more like a culture of print being given some importance. For people who like to collect it, if nothing else, I think archiving is a beautiful thing. Like there should be archives because थोड़ी सी मैं हूँ old school type, मुझे
Mm-hmm.
अच्छी लगती है चीजें. Outside of that, I guess क्या फर्क पड़ता है preference का मेरी honestly. क्या लगेगा?
No, I
कोई
mean,
फर्क नहीं पड़ता.
I mean, it,
But
it shows what like your approach is to these things.
I think so. इसमें भी थोड़ा सा वो भी आ गया ना, like you wanted to speak about the democratization of fashion,
Yeah.
which really I think is a great thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I genuinely believe that nice things for everybody basically is how it should be.
Mm.
So democratization, great. लेकिन like what we're seeing with social media अब is कि उसकी वजह से अब ये होता है कि number one, everything is influenced by people's opinion. That does sort of take the art aspect out of fashion.
Yeah.
ठीक है. अब आप अगर सिर्फ you're only responding to what the client wants, what the customer needs, what people are liking, like quite literally fucking liking,
Yeah.
then your your creativity becomes really diluted. You are at ultimately at some point you're just reproducing what everybody else wants, right? And we're experiencing this with all of the arts. It's not just fashion. I don't
Yeah.
think it's
Yeah.
just fashion.
Right.
Look at what pop mainstream pop music is, what
Yeah.
TikTok is. Like I was just bitching about this, dude. TikTokers becoming big, the biggest pop stars of our time.
Yeah.
मेरे समझ से बाहर है, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So बस integrity काम की आपकी dilute होती रहती है. That's my biggest issue with it. I
Mm.
don't think there's a lot of work out there that has any integrity now in fashion, unfortunately. I think it's
Yeah.
a very hard statement to make, or people are gonna hate on me for saying this, but it
Of
is.
course, what people are going to say, of course, is कि because you work with ZaraShahJehan, and obviously you will think उसका काम best है और बाकी बुरे हैं, तुम तो ये कहोगी. But I also
हाँ,
validity in this because my old school old person on the internet issue was a lot of I'm very into YouTube and I have been for years. So yeah, मुझे
yeah,
really enjoy like the videos that people used to put still put. But over the
yeah,
past 4 or 5 years, everybody looks at YouTube as a job first. And
yeah,
there has been like a really crazy decline in the sort of like just viral interesting videos that just
yeah,
organically show up, and it's all like analytics dekho or length itni honi chahiye or ye itna hona chahiye, and that's at like the forefront of the discussion even before you're going into what the creative choices will be. And the creative choices are, bro, unique banao take followers aaye. It's not care do what you
yeah.
like because you like it. And on Instagram as well, the same thing. It used to be a place where people post pictures that they like, but now it's like bro, trend
Yeah,
kya theme aisi honi chahiye. There are, I tell this
absolutely.
to some photographer friends of mine, I say this often. There's these 2 3 guys from Chicago who I follow. They just photograph
Yeah.
basically.
Hmm.
And एक दफा ऐसा हुआ कि I don't know, a few years pehle. Like there were like their pictures were coming ek saath hi, and I could not tell कि कौन सी picture किसकी थी because they looked the same.
Yeah.
Like एक ही photo
Same,
में,
yeah.
yeah, they looked like so similar. I was like,
Yeah.
नहीं.
हर किसी का काम is a reproduction of किसी और का काम और ठीक
Yeah,
है भाई, like वो I feel like taking the joy out of something is it's it's criminal, like that's it. और मैं क्या करूं?
huh. White,
Skill.
as a white person would say, let me just do devil's advocate, play devil's advocate for a second. Do you think there is a risk of this happening with like your work with ZaraShahJehan because it is also drawing on an existing influence? Mana ke that's not like kal ka trend reproduced today. Do you think
Yeah.
there is?
Uh,
I suppose this would be more of a designer related question, but in your work, is
yeah.
this, do you, how do you draw the line between reproducing something you saw and
Yeah.
drawing inspiration from it?
Oh, that's a good question. And so it's a really like mera answer to bahut simple hai. There's nothing, it's not a particularly intelligent answer, I guess. But how do I? So personally, I do feel like when I'm creating a look, I take the reference point, and again, this does not, I guess, it doesn't translate क्योंकि बहुत लोग इस पे बात करते हैं.
Sure.
Then I think about how I would wear that,
Yeah.
how I would update it to suit me or suit who I am at this point in time. Or I think of women from my life currently, women my age that I really admire and I love their style and I love how they, present themselves. And I think how would somebody like that take this inspiration and then update it. So personally, I do believe कि मैं अपनी looks में ये implement करती हूँ. It's not an actual copy कि उन्होंने बिल्कुल इतना बड़ा काजल भी डाला तो हम वो भी we don't do any of those.
Right.
You look at the makeup, you look at like the finer points. All of that is actually quite modern, quite clean. We keep everything very like minimal, and then and it's not like we won't be doing like if it's like a mega like shiny joda to like full disco styling, which is how, to be very honest, our moms went. They were like full on maximalism like, to them, so my styling is actually extremely minimal, so I do concentrate on the very few aspects that will still reference strongly a style, but still be able to be worn by somebody like me in the modern day. And I honestly, I do style myself very similarly to how I style my shoots.
Right.
So,
right. I guess that makes sense then, because if something, jitni bhi inspirations ho, if they're going through a filter and that filter is you, they will not be, वो वाली बात है ना, inspire होना एक बात है और mimic करना एक अलग बात
है. हर creative इसी तरह function करता है ना. You take in a lot of information, then you are basically the conduit, and then there's what you do.
Right.
But this is what I always say. I say जब जिस किसी का भी criticism है कि मैंने लोगों को क्या पहनाया है, I'm not even kidding. I wear all of that shit myself. I'm wearing like a lot of the shit I use in shoots every day. So मैं ही हूँ बस मैं ही हूँ. People genuinely like whenever people say these girls don't exist, I'm like, hello, right here, and I know other women who are like this.
Acha, though then because there is the thing where fashion is something you're interested in and you said you really enjoy dressing up and you have forever, the common question we ask is that now that this is your job, has that affected your relationship with it? Are you always thinking in styling mode? Can you disconnect? Has that ever been a concern?
Yes, that is a very good question. So I am somebody like I have a beautiful like mix of mental illnesses, of course.
Acha.
It's just so I have been in the past. I have been somebody who was extremely obsessed with my work. Like I would constantly talk about it, constantly think about it. And then I realized, I was miserable. I was really unhappy. I completely stopped enjoying dressing myself. I stopped enjoying the work. It was just very difficult, very anxiety inducing. But just because I was working constantly and I was just like stuck in that really vicious cycle, तो बस हो ही जा रहा था. But then COVID happened, and this is like I'm not saying the pandemic is a blessing in any way, but everything just really stopped, right? Like everything stopped. And considering we weren't even stepping out, the dressing part of everything stopped. So I really had a great like 5-6 months where I didn't have to look at clothes. Didn't have to think about it, not in a work capacity, not in a private capacity. And I just I took those 5-6 months to sort of reset how I think about work, how I do feel like the hobby part of it had completely died. I wasn't I wasn't enjoying it as something that I love anymore. It was very much a job, and an extremely taxing job at that. Um, Now I really reset my priorities, I think, post COVID, like when now that things are starting up. I treat work very much like work now. It's work. I go, I enjoy my job, I have a great time on set, but I do the job and I leave it there.
Hmm.
How I dress, what I enjoy has to be kept very separate from it. It can't be so intertwined that my brain can't understand where the work part of it ends
Yeah.
and where me enjoying something purely,
Yeah.
you know, that starts. And it's very important to keep that separate, because something that you love, of course, is sacred, and it should be able to stay something that you love.
Hmm.
So far so good. Let's see how long this lasts. Abhi tak I'm being successful in keeping the two separate.
Yeah.
Um, but absolutely, hota hai when you monetize anything you love, it
Yeah.
it a double equation, of course.
And
It's
also with fashion, because like clothes are so much of a daily thing for people.
yeah,
Like, if you're a photographer and you monetize that, like you don't have to take pictures every day of everything.
you know,
So
you can
that's
like
there's
literally.
already yeah, there's already that distance. But with fashion and clothes, they're like all the time, every day. So I suppose it
Yes,
must be
I think
harder.
that is why it's easier to start obsessing over every small thing, right? Like, honestly, it becomes difficult to shop for yourself because you're just thinking
Yeah.
in that mode constantly. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I do think clothes, yeah, how you dress yourself is something that's actually it's so personal, right? It's not really, it's, because it has become a marketing tool. It is a commodity now, but it's also the most personal thing that we can do for ourselves, how we dress ourselves, how
Mm,
it makes us feel. It's so important.
yeah. So then what would again there's the cliche, because we're sort of getting towards the end of this. There's always the question of beta aapka plan kya hai? You know. So you're doing what
Yeah,
you're doing
plan.
now and it's going well and the brand is growing, and uske saath chalo there's that relationship where your work ka scope also grows and evolves. But
Yeah.
is there something fully separate also? Are you happy? What a open-ended sawal. Are you happy? um
Very well-ended. और अभी तो प्लान ये कि बस पैंडेमिक से जिंदा निकल जाए, जो कि इंशाल्लाह the end seems in sight. Not the
yeah,
end, but like
yeah.
a better way of managing it seems in sight. I Yeah, the hope is I would love to like, do my own thing. I would love to have like a small, very like local jewelry brand or something like that.
Okay. Okay.
I love accessories. So
Mm.
yeah, slowly building towards that. Hopefully, I will at some point have the money to make it a
Yeah.
reality.
Uh-huh.
Right now, I
Okay.
don't. Right now, I'm poor. But and of course, with the thing with having your own brand is that then you get to dictate everything, which is
Sure.
the dream, right? It is
Sure.
to create the images you love and work with the people you love, and I
Do you
think
think that
just
the is that like a manageable again ignorant sawal mera, could one be a designer and their own stylist as well, or is that separation needed?
no, a lot of designers in the world do that. It
Acha.
is absolutely possible. In fact, personally for me, like a lot of the designers that I love internationally, they're like really small brands that style, shoot, like the creative director shoots, styles everything
Hmm.
themselves, which I think
Hmm.
is amazing. I love that idea that you have something so, precious that you do want to build everything yourself.
Yeah.
That's the dream, right? I mean, tasveerein umar hi khenchega. I'm sorry, wo to I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm really lucky to have like a work significant other that we're very close and we understand each other really well. So hopefully we'll be able to work together on something in the future that's ours, and then we dictate what it looks like and how it goes out into the world, and that's
Hmm.
very important to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Huh.
Is there, as we get to the end, the actual end, is there anything else that you want to talk about that I didn't mention? Is there like something that Aska wanted to get out into the world? Fashion ki asliyat type
Huh.
situation.
I think like pretty much spoke about everything. Yeah, like I mean, I just wanted to say that I do think a lot of the criticism that we get, not we personally, but that brands get, is
Hmm.
valid. Of course, brands need to be doing much better. Um, but some crossfire में creatives जो हैं हम मरते हैं. That's my only issue. कि people really need to understand कि हम भी नौकरी कर रहे हैं.
Right.
Honestly,
Right.
we are not, number one. We're really not benefiting from the system in the way that people think we are. We're really not. We're just as fucked as everybody else in every other industry. And जो personal responsibility जो लोग creatives पर डालने की कोशिश करते हैं, I think that's a little unfair. That's like किसी भी worker पे personal responsibility डालना एक system को बदलने की, ये kindness हमें भी extend हो सकती है जो fashion में काम करते हैं, you know.
Hmm.
Lots of intelligent people understand this about every other industry, but not necessarily people who are working in fashion.
Hmm.
And change is like slow and painful. Unfortunately, in the way that the world is built right now, it's slow and painful. होना नहीं चाहिए, but that's it. Unfortunately, there are a lot of things that people like us who are working inside, we can't change it radically. So that expectation, I think, is a little misplaced and unfair.
एक मुझे जाते जाते एक सवाल याद आ गया.
Honestly.
Despite saying that we're at
Hmm.
the end 2-3 दफा, कल परसों ना, I don't remember exactly, but I put out like this teely sort of tweet saying that
Yeah.
I think what I was saying was that in Pakistan in the past 10 years, only the fashion industry, or perhaps more specifically women's fashion, perhaps even more specifically bridal fashion, has shown consistent evolution in terms of mainstream art forms as compared to music, film, dramas, whatever. Do you think how's Emmy, just speak for the whole industry. Well, how do you think the the thing is? Yeah.
Hello, I'm Pakistani fashion industry.
Yeah. Do you think that's valid?
I would like I would really like to understand what your like reasoning behind that is, if that's okay. Like, why do you feel that it's
Yeah,
evolving?
my starting point in this was not fashion, it was music. Where I was thinking
Oh,
2000 to 2010 we had people come out for whatever reason, infrastructure tha, halat behtar the, etc., all of that being considered, we had like
yeah,
huge stars come out and establish themselves. And
yeah,
then agle 10 saal, 2011 to 2020,
yeah.
that did not happen for जो भी वजूहात थी, मसले थे, हालात खराब थे, चैनल था ये वो. Where same thing for film, शुरू में बहुत हंगामा था, फिल्में आ रही हैं भाई, रिवाइविंग द इंडस्ट्री. तो हमारी हर इंडस्ट्री इज ऑलवेज बीइंग रिवाइव्ड. तो वो,
Huh.
या वो हो रहा था, बट नाउ दैट्स
Music or
ऑल्सो,
film?
या. Is do you think the fashion industry is similar? Is it doing better? I feel it's doing better because maybe just because I see more.
Sure, I know. I do think it is doing better considering कि like 90s में हमारी क्या output थी, the kind of image making that people were being exposed to. I definitely think maybe not even the past 10 years, maybe पिछले literally 5-6 साल में, you know, since I joined.
Yeah, of course.
No. But पिछले 5-6 साल में, I do think a lot is changing because again इंस्टा की वजह से ज्यादा लोग आपका काम देखते हैं. मतलब बैकलैश ज्यादा बड़ा होता है जब आप सीरीज कब करते हो, और बैकलैश इज नॉट अ bad thing. It does move, you know, the fucking wheel. So just now मैं, for instance, I guess I'm gonna name, like, I'll talk about Ilan. I have no qualms about talking about them. I feel like I don't. I'm blocked from their Insta. They really hate me. I call them out all the time.
Wow.
So yeah. So I feel like, for instance, their campaigns used to be extremely focused on high glam. Like they would go to like exotic locations, and then they did this launch shoot in which they had this token black guy because they went to
That's who it
Kenya.
is. Yeah.
Then when the BLM movement was like the BLM protests were happening last summer, they uploaded that shoot and they re-uploaded that shoot, and they were like, "Oh look, we used
Wow.
a black person." And I
Wow.
was just like, I don't want to say really gandi gali, you know, you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
And then I sort of shared it on my story. Then a lot of other creatives from the industry shared it, and we were like, क्या बकवास कर रहे हो dude? Like this is the worst kind of fetishistic tokenism. This is basically
Yeah.
what we're fighting against. तुम लोग अपने आप को करने से नहीं रुकते और अब तुम लोग, you know, you're doing it to another race. And that received a lot of attention from a lot of people, I think, to the extent where Elan now markets things in a very different way.
अच्छा.
So definitely brands, क्योंकि अब ज्यादा लोग उनको देख रहे हैं, वो ज्यादा बात सुनते हैं. Double edged sword है, right? कि आप एक, on the one hand you have this very market driven
Yeah.
creative output now, but on the other hand, just now people are becoming more politically woke, I guess. They're putting that weight on brands, and आपकी हमारी output बहुत जल्दी is becoming a little more intelligent.
Right.
That's
right.
So I agree. Or my music, which like I'm not trying to compare this to music or like film, like because like you said, which there's no infrastructure. Fashion का infrastructure बहुत solid है,
Yeah.
बहुत firmly करता है. There's a lot of money in fashion, to be very honest. Campaigns are easy money. Music, unfortunately, something I feel very strongly about Pakistani music. There's no platform for anybody. So I think you were a little unfair to say it.
I mean,
नहीं आ रहा.
देखिए rational tweets जो है ना उनका फायदा नहीं है मार्केट में. But it was obviously you can't read that tweet and not think I'm comparing the two. कि देखो bro, fashion तो चल रहा है, music shit है. But in solid output terms, fashion बहुत solid है, the others are not due to 20-30 मसले. So but fashion ka, I mean, overall, there is the thing where we need regulation and working conditions or ये सब कुछ अपनी जगह, but वैसे काम चल रहा है in a much more self-sustaining sort of way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's so much money to be made from it. Obviously, जिस चीज में आप capital invest करोगे.
Yeah.
That has potential to grow in different, in even like in output, how the output changes. Does it change a lot? Yeah. So I'm sorry, like I feel like मैं हर चीज को कर आगे बस I just bring it down to like capitalism.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's valid. It's not like a trophy sort of jawab. But सच्चाई वही the question then would be कि bro, music में भी पैसे डाल लो, फिल्मों में भी डाल लो, output वहां से भी आ जाएगा.
और ज्यादा लोगों को टेस्ट रिफाइन होगा. ये भी तो है ना, टेस्ट कैसे बिल्ड होता है जब आप लोगों को बहुत ज्यादा कुछ दिखाते हो तो पीपल आर एबल टू डिस्टिंग्विश कि अच्छा ये सही ये नहीं.
ये बात ना, ये ट्वीट आई ही इधर से थी because Nadir, our friend, was saying कि there's a group on Facebook, Pakistani guitarists or whoever, and he's like, bro, वो इतनी कोई shit चीजें upload करते हैं और इतना खुश होते हैं because that's like our like references are just dated and there's just been no growth because there's been no material. तो बस लोग that's what inspired it. Khair, I blame Nadir for everything. Where can people, do you want people to find you? Yeah. Do you want people to find you on the internet?
They want to find you. Sure. If they're so inclined, it's just my name. I mean, most people can't spell my name, but it's just my name. Yeah. Azka Shahid.
Instagram, Twitter, do you have a preference? We'll put, कोई सी link मैं ना डालूं?
मैं हूँ सिर्फ Insta पे. I'm on Insta. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Twitter. I don't partake. So
seems like you might lead a happier life than the rest of us then. By not being.
I definitely I sometimes go on Twitter for the jokes because I genuinely do think that joke Twitter is amazing. Yeah. And meme Twitter is amazing. That's where I stay. Like I just stick to that.
So, I think that's all Twitter should be for. बाकी सारी बातों की जरूरत नहीं है हमें.
Jokes.
Yeah.
I agree. Pakistani Twitter is like hell. Yeah.
There's a recent Malala post about this. But khair, Azka Shahid, thank you very much. We're going to stop recording now. And at some point, dekhte hain, hopefully if this works out. If it doesn't, I will find you if you're in Karachi. And we'll यही exact conversation हम फिर से कर लेंगे.
Sure. I'll probably
Yeah. ठीक है, चलो, okay guys, TBR pod etc.
Talks about it.